This part of our podcast is about the Guides Cavalry in 1965 war, and this is a section from the book Pakistan Army Tank Regiments in 1965 war, which is available on the Amazon books at the lowest rates in the largest interest of knowledge. Guides Cavalry was raised in 1846 and was regarded as a very solid and well decorated unit of the British Indian Army. It saw action in Second World War in North Africa. It was part of the newly raised 6th Armored Division and had 2 squadrons of M48 and 1 squadron of M36B2 tank destroyers. Its class compositions was Pathans and Punjabis. The unit was commanded by Amir Gulistan Janjua, who was a commando officer. It had a very strong set of officers known in the army for their professional competence and boldness. These included the regiment's second in command Fazle Haq, known to be extremely headstrong, Ziauddin Abbasi, very smart, dashing, and professionally competent, Shamim Yasin Manto from the commandos, and also very mature, qualified, and balanced. The unit was famous for being highly integrated and with a very intense spirit de corps. It was deployed as map following shows at Badiana when the war broke out. Guides Cavalry was in General Area Badiana on 8 September 1965 when Indian Armored Division attack was launched. It was deployed on the western side of the battlefield as maps following illustrate. Its main action was its 2 squadron counterattack on Indian western flank on 11 September 1965. Its A squadron was on the left and its B squadron was on the right. B squadron straight ran into Pune Horse, which was well deployed, and its attack was a failure. B squadron losing its squadron commander Abbasi and his second in command Hussain Shah. This squadron veered left into the line of advance of A squadron. A squadron on the left was most successful, and apparently Indian 16 cavalry in its front had already fled as a result of massive Pakistani artillery bombardment, abandoning 5 tanks. The Indian accounts described commanding officer 16 cavalry as having lost all wireless contact and having lost his way with 14 tanks. The commanding officer of Indian 16 light cavalry was sacked from command. Thereafter, Guide was deployed on the Sialkot-Pasrur railway line and kept losing tanks every day as Indians attacked its area of responsibility from 14 to 16 September. Finally, on 16 September afternoon, Guide was replaced by 19 Lancers and pulled out of the front line. Its remaining tanks were regrouped as D Squadron, 19 Lancers. In all, the unit lost 3 officers killed in the war. The unit was awarded 5 Sitara Joras. Its fatal casualties were 15, which were not very high as far as the intensity of battle was concerned. The regiment's counterattack of 11 September 1965 imposed severe caution on the already over-careful and badly led Indian 1st Armored Division. There is no doubt that Pakistani artillery concentration played a most crucial role in dispersing Indian 16 cavalry, which had already abandoned its position at Khakan Wali when A Squadron Guides Cavalry reached Khakan Wali. The total 15 casualties suffered by the Guides in the whole of 1965 war certainly indicate that when its squadron reached Khakan Wali, Indian 16 cavalry had already fled the battlefield. Pakistani accounts were intellectually dishonest in whitewashing and suppressing the fact that Pakistani artillery played a crucial role in the success of AS Cordon Guides cavalry at Khakanwali. Particularly, Pakistani 6th Armored Division history, written much later in 2005, was a disgraceful hogwash in its false claims that guides attacked on 11 September 1965 without any artillery support. Intellectual dishonesty par excellence. This is a map which shows the location of the guides cavalry about 5 miles west of Badiana on the morning of 8 September 1965, having moved to this location from Mandike on night 7th 8 September 1965. At this stage, Indian 1st Armored Division had attacked Pakistan and was checked by the 25th Cavalry at Gadgor. As you can see, this is Gadgor with 25th Cavalry has checked the Indian 1st Armored Division. This is the Guides Cavalry at Badiana. As you can see, this is the overall map. Guides Cavalry deployment on the morning of 10 September 1965. As you can see, it is deployed 3 squadrons up and the recce troop is on the railway line. As you can see clearly, this is the map. Guides Cavalry recce troop is moved forward and deployed south of Bhagowal at 0400 hours 11 September 1965. As you can see, this is the first major move of the Guides Cavalry. The recce troop moved like this. This is the Indian attack on the morning of 11 September, as you can see. And this is the Guides Cavalry recce troop, as you can see, reinforced with 1 tank troop of B squadron. And these are the 3 squadrons of the Guides Cavalry deployed on the railway line. Recce troop reinforced by tank troop from B Squadron Guides Cavalry. Lieutenant General Mahmood missed the most important point, that recce troop of Guides Cavalry was reinforced by tank troop of B Squadron Guides Cavalry. This point was, however, thankfully mentioned in Major General Shaukat Raza's official history, the 1965 history book. This is a map which shows the Guides attack plan on 11 September 1965. A Squadron to attack Chahar and B Squadron to attack Libbe, as you can see from the left flank. The Indians have already dispersed 11 cavalry and have occupied Philora, which was not much, of operational importance. But, Indian moves were mouse-brained and they claim Philora to be a great battle. But anyhow, this is the Guides' plan to counterattack Indians from the flank. As you can see clearly, 2 squadrons up. The 3rd squadron was hopeless because it had M36B2 tanks and could not be used. Guides attack plan 11 September 1965 Part 2. C Squadron to cover, move to Kot Izzat to cover artillery withdrawal of 4 Corps artillery. This is the C Squadron, which of course had M36B2 tanks. So while these 2 A and B Squadron were attacking, C Squadron was supposed to go to Kot Izzat on the right depth flank and cover the move of Corps artillery. This is the actual B Squadron Guides Cavalry attack. As you can see, B Squadron ran straight into the Pune Horse Squadron, 17 Horse Squadron, and received a bloody nose, lost its squadron commander and the squadron 2IC. As you can see very clearly, B Squadron Guides Cavalry is confronted by Pune Horse Squadron. Squadron commander Ziauddin Abbasi and his second in command Hussain Shah are hit and killed while maneuvering westwards. Meanwhile, Major Mustafa Jan brings a massive artillery concentration on 16 cavalry at Khakan Wali, as a result of which 16 cavalry bolts flees the battlefield, abandoning 5 Centurion tanks well before Alpha Squadron of the Guides Cavalry came into contact with it. Now, this is the intellectual dishonesty of 6th Armored Division history, the Men of Steel, badly written and disgustingly intellectually dishonest. Because when A Squadron Guides attacks, 16 Cavalry has already fled because of the force of the Pakistani artillery fire. This is the harsh reality. B Squadron attack has been a total failure. B Squadron has received a thorough beating and veers on the left, as you can see in these arrows very clearly. The Rakhi troop of the guides and tank troop of Abbasi Squadron, B Squadron, is here on the left flank. Now we will again go back. 16 Cavalry, shattered by Major Mustafa Jan's artillery concentration, has already fled when a squadron of guides arrives at Chahar. As you can see, when the A Squadron of Latif reaches Chahar, the 16 Cavalry has already fled. So there was no tank fight and force of artillery fire, Mustafa Jan. And sadly, Mahmoud has been very, very intellectually dishonest. He has totally omitted Mustafa Jan. But thank God for us, for the sake of military history, Shaukat Raza did mention Major Mustafa Jan, the artillery hero of the Guides counterattack. So Shaukat Raza preserved Mustafa Jan for posterity. While Mahmoud, I don't know what was his agenda, he totally whitewashed Mustafa Jan. There are many missing puzzles on the 11th September Guides attack. Deputy General Officer commanding 6th Armored Division Brigadier Sardar Hissam Al Afendi's role in Guides Cavalry attack on 11th September 1965. Now, a point about Hissam Afendi. Since he was an outsider, he was not, not really a Pakistani, Afghan royal family, outspoken man, blunt man, not a Punjabi, not Urdu speaking, not the typical Pathan, Afghan royalty. So there has been a lot of propaganda against him. But thankfully, Major General Shaukat Raza, in his official history, artillery history published in 1980, had access to all official records and had seen the 1965 war. Shaukat stated in his official artillery history as below, quote, on 8 September, Brigadier Hissam Al Afendi had been appointed as second in command to GOC 6th Armored Division. Hissam was a grandson of Sardar Ayub Khan, the ruler of Afghanistan, June 1880 to September 1881. He was gifted with a striking, unforgettable personality and the instincts of a born cavalryman. When the crisis developed in Gadgor, Hissam got on to Fazli, lead your guides to the sound of guns, unquote, Hissam told Fazli Haq. There was little time for elaborate planning. Fazli lined up the guides along railway embankment at Al-Har and gave the orders to charge. This is from the artillery history, the official artillery history published in 1980. Mahmoud and 6th Armored Division's badly written history totally whitewashed Afendi's role in ordering the 11th September attack. But there is no doubt that Afendi had a role in that. And of course, Abrar being an infantry officer, one can't really expect that he could do much at this stage. Maybe on 15th or 16th September, he had become more mature. However, 6th Armored Division history did admit, although in variance with Shaukat Raza, that Afendi was Deputy General Officer commanding of 6th Armored Division from afternoon of 11th September 1965 till 17th September 1965. Afendi was no doubt a controversial personality. Abrar and many others felt insecure with Afendi since Afendi was far more perfect than officers of the army, a sword of honor of Indian Military Academy. Afindi was good in everything he did, as is GSO 3. Later, Colonel Sami in the 3rd Armored Brigade described him. However, his blunt temperament led to his not being promoted. It was alleged that Afindi, as per Zade Khan on 15th September, suggested that headquarters 6th Armored Division be withdrawn. As per Zade, he was removed from 6th Armored Division headquarters on Major General Abrar's orders. This might be true, that no one can rule out Shaukat Raza's assertion that Afindi was in resolute spirits, at least on 11 September 1965. We also must note that withdrawal from Chavenda was also suggested to Abrar by Brigadier Abdul Ali Malik on 16 September 1965, and we have the testimony of the GSO2 operations KMRF about this suggestion made by Abdul Ali Malik. Yet Abdul Ali Malik was awarded Hilal-e-Jurrat and promoted after the war to 3-star rank, no lesser a personality than one corps commander. Lieutenant General Rana also suggested to Brigadier Amjad Chaudhry that guns be withdrawn from Chavenda. But Abrar only removed Afindi, who was an Afghan descent emigre with no strong Punjabi connections. So there is a strong streak of parochialism here. Because if Abdul Ali Malik suggests withdrawal, he gets a Hilal-e-Jurrat. But if Afindi suggests something, he is removed. So this is typical Pakistani history, intellectual dishonesty par excellence. But this is not our aim. Our aim is to discuss the Guides Cavalry. Interestingly, Major Shamshad Ali Khan of 25 Cavalry, who fought in Chavenda battles, dismissed Abrar's melodramatic, quote, "nothing in the kitty," unquote, false lament, which the map illustrates. As you can see, Major General Abrar had made a very famous statement that there is nothing in the kitty, which Major Shamshad, who direct participant of the Chavenda battles, totally disproved as nonsense. And Shamshad Ali Khan, direct participant of Chavenda battles, busts the myth that there was nothing left in the kitty on 16 September, and Lieutenant General Mahmood claimed that the situation was precarious, according to Shamshad's analysis, which is based on facts. This is absolute nonsense. As you can see, the Pakistani tank regiments and the tank resources deployed, and Indians had 5 tank regiments, but their strength had been reduced to 2.5 or plus minus. 22 cavalry was totally intact. It hardly did any fighting, losing 2 people in the war. 19 Lancers was okay. Guides and 11 cavalry had been decimated, but were reorganized as the 4th squadron of 19 Lancers. 25 cavalry decimated, but in good condition. They lost only 16 killed, which shows that there was not much fighting. 12 cavalry, 2 squadrons intact. 5 horse, the blue-eyed Gulason's favorite, full of generals' sons and well-connected people, absolutely untouched, hidden in Kalaswala in the deep rear, so that it is never used in battle. So this dismisses the totally false claim of Abrar about nothing left in the kitty. Absolute nonsense, which had no connection with the harsh operational reality of battle. As you can see, you can check any account or anything, but this nothing in the kitty is absolute nonsense. Role of artillery. Mustafa Jan. According to official history of Pakistan artillery, Major General Shaukat Raza, Major Mustafa Jan pounded 16th Cavalry at Khakan Wali so hard with artillery concentrations that the regiment, 16 Light Cavalry, disintegrated and disappeared. Finally, its commanding officer was sacked from command, as admitted by Indian Armored Corps historian in the Indian official history. 16th Cavalry was nowhere to be seen after A Squadron Guides Cavalry attack on Chahar, which it had already abandoned, leaving 5 Centurion tanks in running condition. However, in the much later 2006 published book of Lieutenant General Mahmood, which Pakistani 3-star General Tariq Khan described as Teaching Handbook of Pakistani Staff College, Mustafa Jan's name was snidely whitewashed by Mahmood. Bad military history. Now, sacking of commanding officer of 16th Cavalry, sacking of Colonel Sidhu Brar, commanding officer of 16th Cavalry, for miserable failure on 11 September 1965 is totally missed by Lieutenant General Mahmood's badly written history, whitewashed by Harbaksh Singh, Prawal, Bhupinder Singh's book Monsoon War. All these characters are as intellectually dishonest as Mahmood as far as the sacking of Sidhu Brar is concerned. While Battle of Hillora was a triumph of Poona Horse and to some extent Hodson's Horse, 16th Cavalry conduct on this day, 11 September 1965, was a massive blot on the history of Indian Armored Corps, a convincing and credible proof of 16th Cavalry disappearance on 11 September 1965 from Indian Armored Corps historian Major General Gurcharan Singh Sandhu's book. Sandhu, the Armored Corps historian, thankfully acknowledged that commanding officer 16th Cavalry Lieutenant Colonel Sidhu Brar was sacked from command for losing way, a polite term for deserting your post, fleeing the battlefield, or not performing your battle role and missing from place of action. Lieutenant General Mahmood's badly and inaccurately written broad brush, which Lieutenant General Tariq Khan claims was actually Staff College's teaching handbook and a massive group effort involving many courses of Staff College, sadly missed basic sources. The syndicates which jointly produced this book, published with Mahmood's name, did not even read the history of Indian Armored Corps 1941 to 71, the Indian Armour by General Gurcharan Singh Sandhu, since it was published in 1981, and thus it was missed. This is a very serious failure of Mahmood's book. Lieutenant General Mahmood did list this book in the bibliography, but when you read Mahmood's claimed to be authored book, you realize that the book totally missed the disgraceful conduct of commanding officer 16th Cavalry. Sidhu Brar, who was described in short words by Sandhu in his Armored Corps history as below. Quote, late in the evening, about a dozen Centurions approached Badach's harbour. The leading tank carried Sidhu Brar and Avinash Khanna. They said that they were lost and asked to be guided to their harbour. Both the divisional commander and the brigade commander had been out of radio contact with Sidhu Brar all afternoon. Brigadier K.K. Singh recommended Sidhu Brar's removal from command and Major Ghod Pade, the second in command, took over. The most serious and sensitive question, what 16th Cavalry was doing on 11 September 1965, was totally evaded and dodged by Indian Armored Corps historian. Naturally, genes are the same of Indians and Pakistanis, so intellectual honesty is in plenty on both sides. Now, Bhupinder Singh's book, which is inaccurate and intellectually dishonest, also totally evaded 16th Cavalry's dubious conduct on 11 September 1965. Harbaksh Singh also totally missed this affair in this book. Indian Official History of 1965 also totally whitewashed 16th Cavalry's conduct and instead claimed that it destroyed some pattern tanks. Seen in this context, Gurcharan Singh Sandhu in 1981 was an intellectually honest angel military historian if you compare him with the Indian and Pakistani existing in the remaining accounts. 6 Armored Divisions official histories false claim that guides attacked without artillery support. Disgraceful military history. This badly written history claims that Guides cavalry attacked on 11 September 1965 without artillery support. Both Official Artillery History of Pakistan, published in 81, and Staff College Teaching Handbook Mahmood clearly stated that Guides attacked with artillery fire support. Why 16 cavalry conduct was unbecoming of a cavalry regiment on 11 September 1965. 16th Cavalry conduct was substantially disgraceful on 11 September 1965. The reason was that while a lone squadron of Pune horse inflicted serious damage on the Guides cavalry and repulsed its squadron attack, what were other three squadrons of 16th Cavalry doing when A Squadron Guides cavalry attacked and captured Chahar, directly going through the center of the area where 16th Cavalry was supposed to be deployed? How Alpha Squadron Guides cavalry captured Chahar if 16th Cavalry was actually deployed at Khakan Wali? A possible explanation. Most likely, when Alpha Squadron Guides cavalry attacked Chahar, a very heavy artillery concentration was brought on Khakan Wali Chahar area where 16th Cavalry was deployed. When Alpha Squadron Guides reached Chahar, they discovered 5 abandoned tanks of 16th Cavalry. The explanation given by Pakistani artillery historian Major General Shaukat Raza was that one Major Mustafa Jan, snidely omitted by Mahmood's Staff College Teaching Handbook, had brought fire of every artillery gun within range. In exact words of Shaukat Raza on Indians opposing Guides' two squadrons, it is quite possible that 16th Cavalry disappeared as a result of this massive artillery concentration. 5 tanks that it abandoned were a proof that 16th Cavalry was at Kandal and Khakan Wali and disappeared like a jinn after Mustafa Jan attacked with artillery fire. If we believe the more reliable Shaukat Raza or Captain Riaz, if we believe the far more dubious Staff College Handbook, artillery hero of 11 September 1965, as described by Shaukat Raza in his book. As you can see, Shaukat Raza states that the battle had been short but intense. The Guides might have suffered more casualties, but for the reaction of Major Mustafa Jan. Within minutes, he had every gun within range on enemy positions, and the Guides came out. The opposing tanks leaguered for the night. The next morning, the Guides discovered Indian tanks leaguered about 1500 yards away. Both sides had gone through the night, drugged with the sleep of exhaustion, unaware of the presence of another. The following map depicts what may have happened to 16th Cavalry. As you can see, this is a depiction of what happened. 16th Cavalry had already fled. Major Mustafa Jan pounded 16th Cavalry at Khakan Wali so hard with artillery concentrations that the regiment disintegrated and disappeared. Finally, its commanding officer was sacked from command, as admitted by Indian Armored Corps historian. The regiment was nowhere to be seen after A Squadron Guides cavalry attack on Chahar, which it had already abandoned, leaving 5 Centurion tanks. As you can see, 16th Cavalry had already abandoned Khakan Wali when A Squadron Guides cavalry reached Chahar. B Squadron had been an absolute failure, but Mustafa Jan had done an excellent job and already had made the 16th Cavalry flee the battlefield well before A Squadron Guides cavalry reached Chahar. Pakistan's artillery historian 1981 explanation of artillery support to Guides cavalry and Major Mustafa Jan, who was totally whitewashed by Staff College Handbook of Mahmood and 6 armored divisions, badly written history. Now, the 6th Armored Division makes this 6th Armored Division official history, Men of Steel, makes a false claim. Quote, the battle had been short but intense. Correction. This is the Shaukat Raza thing which we have already quoted. Staff College Handbook Mahmood gives another explanation of about 16th Cavalry's disappearance, that some of its tanks were destroyed by Ragged Troop of Guides cavalry, this explanation seems less plausible, as the records of Pakistani recoilless rifles hitting Centurion tanks was far more dicey. Recently published memoirs of Brigadier Mia Mahmood state that Centurions were in running order and were simply abandoned by their crews, resting and having tea. He quoted Amir Gulistan Janjua stating that the guides was unable to take the tanks as they could not start them, but Major Fazle Haq did take away all the liquor in the tanks. So this map illustrates in detail the guides' actual attack on 16 cavalry against 17 horse. Of course, it was repulsed, and here we see how the reinforcement of Chavenda has been done by 25 cavalry and part of 22 cavalry. This map illustrates the same issue. Guides cavalry dispositions on 12 September 1965. As you can see, Guides cavalry retreated to the railway line, and of course, the major part of the battle was over. Guides cavalry dispositions as part of 6th Armored Division on morning of 12 September 1965. As you can see, deployed along the railway line. Indians have received a battering. True that they captured Philora, but the Guides cavalry counterattack did shake them. As you can see, 13 September, Guides cavalry B squadron sent out 2 troops forward to patrol no man's land, aggressively and pointlessly loses 2 tanks hit by Pune horse from the direction of Philora. As you can see, they do some Don Quixote style patrolling and are forced to go back, losing 2 tanks. Guides cavalry has various firefights with 4 Hodson's horse on 14th and 15th September 1965, and both sides lose tanks, but no major change in situation. As you can see, Guides cavalry is deployed along the railway line, 16 cavalry and 4 horse probe, but not much change of situation. 16th September, Indian 1st Armored Brigade, 4 Hodson's horse and Pune horse attack across railway line, and Guides is driven west of Sialkot Pathrur road. As you can see, these 2 units attack, and Guides is driven west of Sialkot Pathrur road, as you can see here. This is also a chaotic move because Indians just suffered casualties. On 16th September afternoon, 19 Lancers replaced Guides cavalry, and Guides was pulled out of battle. Remnants were grouped under 19 Lancers as D squadron. As you can see, 19 Lancers comes into action, Guides is pulled back, and the remaining tanks of the Guides are reorganized at Delta squadron of 19 Lancers. So this is the end of the Guides cavalry treatment, and in the next part we will discuss 11 cavalry and more on that in a subsequent podcast.